Decisions that should have been taken 70 years ago, for sure 25 years ago, and we are very glad and thankful to President Trump for just making it happen.
It finally did happen. Former Israeli Prime Minister speaking to us earlier in the hour. President Trump following through with his promise of moving the embassy to Jerusalem, the U.S. Embassy in Israel. And even one of his toughest critics is applauding the move. Senator Chuck Schumer saying, quote, every nation should have the right to choose its capital. I sponsored legislation to do this 2 decades ago, and I applaud President Trump for doing it. Here now on the political impact of all this, Doug Schoen, former Clinton pollster. He is also a Fox News contributor. And Lena Epstein, congressional candidate for Michigan's 11th district. Good to see you both. Thanks for being here. Doug,
thank you.
How many other Democrats do you think are going to vocally support the president on this?
Well, I think most Democrats should, David. Now, there are, sadly, some Democrats like Keith Ellison who have historically not been supportive of Israel, but I think most Democrats will support, should support, and I think it is in America's interest and indeed the world's interest that we have a united front between the two parties, as Senator Schumer's comment suggests.
Now, Lena, let's talk about the violence that all this has spawned. Of course, most of what has happened, the violent protesters, and again, you kind of hesitate to use the word protesters because many of them were charging the fence separating the Gaza area from Israel itself. And, of course, Israel was defending its borders. But a lot of that was propelled by Hamas, which is in control of Gaza right now. And the United States,
Absolutely.
through various sources, through the UNDP and other sources, indirectly funds Hamas, or at least that is the charge by a lot of Republicans. What can be done about that, if anything?
Well, this is a very historic day. It's a very important day for both of our nations. And I pray for all the families involved on both sides of the issue. But ultimately, President Trump promised to put America first. And to put America first, President Trump needs to support the relationship between Israel and America. And that's what he does. Nothing changes for Israel today. The capital of Israel has been Jerusalem, and it still is Jerusalem. Right. I invite friends from the left and the right to come together around this very historic day for both nations. We are both young democracies, and democracy is worth fighting for. And I'm so proud of President Trump to have been his co-chair for the state of Michigan.
But Doug, let me go back to the question, the specific question. What can be done about U.S. tax money that goes to Palestinian terrorists? This is something the president also talked about on the campaign trail. There was an act that was just passed, we should mention, the Taylor Force Act. Taylor Force was a U.S. Army veteran. He fought in Iraq. He fought in Afghanistan very bravely. He survived those, but was killed, murdered, stabbed to death by a Palestinian terrorist when he was visiting Israel in 2016. And then the parents of the people who stabbed him, of the person who stabbed him, were actually paid by the Palestinian Authority that gets money from the UN, that indirectly gets money from the United States. What can we do to cut off those funds?
Well, we should pass legislation that says that no money that goes to the UN or goes to the Palestinian Authority for peaceful economic development and related activities should go to Hamas, pure and simple.
Would that get bipartisan support?
It would, and it should.
Lena, do you think that would get bipartisan support, both Republicans and Democrats? And if so, let's do it, right?
I have had the opportunity to meet Taylor Swift's parents. I met them in February of this year at the Republican Jewish Coalition gathering in Las Vegas. What this man's family has had to go through, no family in this country should ever have to face. Yeah. We stand with our United States Armed Forces and our friends around the world who are fighting to protect American freedom and American democracy. That's what President Trump promised to do, and that's what I will do as a future member of Congress.
Well, we'd like to have you come back and talk about it a little more because it's very important. People's lives are at stake, but because of all the breaking news, we got to end it there, gang. Doug and Lena, thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Appreciate
David.
it.